You can put it down in the street, so this way. Are you here? Jules, right in front. Yeah, right in front. Is it on Until Freedom? And it's wrong. You gotta turn it upside. Just let them get that. No, Mike, it has to be up straight.
Oh, you want it straight?
Yeah, it has to be straight. Let's let them get that straight first. Should. Yep, there you go. You could, yeah, open it again. And are you gonna do Facebook? Great. Can you see us? Yeah, you want you to test the audio.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 audio check.
You all here?
Right. I will.
Thank you.
A lot of noise.
Okay.
Really loud if you could.
I will. I'll do my best. All right. Ready?
Yes, let's go.
All right. Good morning. I'm attorney B. Ivory Lamar. I represent the interests of the two families, Nyla and Skylar Brown. I'm joined here today with Tamika Mallory and Until Freedom, along with the family of the Brown family, along with attorney Sayer and attorney Mahoney. To the city and state of New York, to the state of Pennsylvania, to all the concerned families across this country who have stood in solidarity with the two girls of this incident. We want to give a special thanks to so many public figures who have lent their voice out for this matter. Attorney Ben Crump, Kelly Rowland, Will Packard, Trader Truth, T.I., Johnny Gill, and so many more I failed to name. To all the mainstream and independent journalists, activists, organizations, and the community who stood in solidarity for these two 6-year-old girls. On behalf of the families, we want to say thank you. Today is about our future. And if we truly and genuinely believe that the children are our future, we must continue to protect them at all costs. Today is a day of accountability and a day of reflection as to what we tolerate in our society. What has taken place at Sesame Place this past Saturday, in the months and years prior, is utterly disgusting and unacceptable. My firm has been retained to investigate the claims of the two girls in this incident, and we also stand in solidarity with every family, every child who has suffered by the hands of characters of this theme park or experienced any level of discrimination. This is not a time to just stand by and become passive while our children are being punished. We cannot and will not allow our children to leave a park feeling empty when they should leave feeling empowered. To our community, we cannot embrace a culture when we are comfortable with simply pulling out our phones to capture racism, but hesitant to address it when it comes about. And that's why we're here today. That's why we have come in the vicinity of Sesame Street to address these issues on the national level. I want to be clear. We are calling for justice not only for the two girls who suffered on Saturday at Sesame Place, but every single child, every video that I've received, every email, every phone call, my office, Ben Crump's office, Tamika Mallory's office, has experienced at the hands of this incident. We've come to learn that what took place Saturday is not an anomaly. But what we've seen is business as usual. To deny, to defend, and to delay accountability. An incident like this should not have to go viral for the harms to be properly addressed by corporations in this country. At the onset, we reject any notion that the performers' actions this past Saturday was anything short of intentional. I know our black girls are magic, but I didn't know that they were invisible. We are tired of your excuses. We are tired of justifications. We will not tolerate racism in this country. We will not tolerate it in policing. We will not tolerate it in our health systems. We will not tolerate it on our jobs. We will not tolerate it in our schools. And we most definitely will not tolerate it in our theme parks directed at our children. Don't tell these families that you stand for inclusion and equality, but then destroy their confidence in their spirits of these young children, and then go back to business as usual. The audacity of some to say that this matter is about money. No, this is about principle, and hopefully you have some. The only thing that is being sold here are the dreams and the illusions of a happy place at these theme parks. You told these kids for years, come and play. Everything's okay. Friendly neighbors there. That's where we meet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Then once these kids figured out how to get to Sesame Street, their families traveled for hours to get there. They paid the price of admission. They paid whatever price for your food, your clothes, your beverages, your clothes, and your toys. And they find out once they get there that everything is not okay. They reach out in open arms to these friendly neighbors for what? To be dismissed? To be rejected? And to leave your park feeling inferior. If you don't respect the dollars that keep you in business, we will respect our right to not continue to give them to you. The time is now to do right by these families. The time is now to right these wrongs. Or, in the words of Kermit the Frog, life is like a movie. Write your own ending. With that, I will now bring Tamika Mallory until freedom.
Thank you, Attorney Lamar. I want to read to you all a little history that has been noted about Sesame Place from the Smithsonian Magazine. First of all, let me just remind you that my name is Tamika Mallory, and I am one of the 4 co-founders of Until Freedom, a social justice organization. The Smithsonian Magazine says that Chester Pierce, an African-American psychiatrist and Harvard professor, helped design what he called the show's hidden curriculum to build up the self-worth of black children through the representation of positive black images. Pierce also insisted the show present an integrated, harmonious community to challenge the marginalization of African Americans that children routinely saw on television and elsewhere in society. More history. Jackie Robinson, and in fact, yesterday we celebrated his wife Rachel Robinson's 100th birthday. Jackie Robinson was one of the first to do an advertisement for Sesame Street. Nina Simone made the show's hidden curriculum explicit when she joined 4 black children on the stoop in 1972. This is the history of Sesame Street, which Sesame Place is supposed to be a product of. So we are not here today because we're just upset about something that happened at a park. We are here because the history of what this park is supposed to represent has been denigrated. Our communities have been disrespected when the entire history of what this park is supposed to be about is the opposite of what we saw, not just in this video, in the video with this family that is standing here today, but in so many more that have come forward. What we have now uncovered is that, unfortunately, discrimination is in another area of our society, and it must be rooted out. I was asked, why are we even having this press conference today? Someone said to me, just shut it down. We should just not go to Sesame Place anymore. And in fact, Until Freedom issued a warning to other black families last week where we have told folks to be very careful, which means that you should be careful about where you spend your dollars and how your children are exposed, especially in light of the way that Sesame Place has responded. But the reason why we are here is, one, I've told you about the history. The second thing, though, is that our children will not be disrespected.
Right.
We will not leave our children unaddressed and unprotected. And therefore, we are here today because we want to send a notice not just to Sesame Place, but to all of the theme parks across this country, that if you are found to be participating in discriminatory behavior against our people, we will drag your name through the mud.
Right.
We are here today to ensure that Sesame Place and others know that this behavior will not be tolerated. When I watch those videos, and particularly the video that Jody posted on her page, showing her babies and the reaction of her own daughter's face after being disrespected by this character, I was heartbroken. But I waited. I waited for 24 hours to see what would happen, because I was sure, my organization, we discussed whether or not we should put out a statement immediately. But we were sure that Sesame Place would do the right thing. We just knew that their statement would be an apology, period, without any equivocation. That is not what happened. Instead, there was gaslighting and complete disrespect to our communities and to our eyes, that somehow we did not see what we saw. We were basically told that it was raining on us, but that there was no water. We saw it with our own eyes. And so the statement that they put out was a disrespect, it was a slap in the face, and it caused more harm to Jody and her family and these babies, because they also believe that the right thing would have been done. It is unfortunate that Attorney Lamar has had to get involved, and that others have had to advocate, because we noticed and we know that this theme park has not taken full responsibility and accountability for what happened. First thing is that the employee behind that character should have been fired. Immediately fired. Period. There's no need to go around it. There's no need to go up and down and to try to make excuses. that employee should have been fired immediately. Second of all, instead of telling us about history that obviously you don't really know yourselves, because if you did, the apology would have been stronger, the statement would have been stronger, the immediate response, the small response. This is something that's not even a big deal. Because to be honest, training is good, but it is not enough. It is not enough. But immediately, the bullet point, right? It's like one of those things that they just say everywhere. Whenever there's discrimination or people feel there's discrimination, immediately companies throw out, we're going to do more training. They didn't even do that. Instead, the statement that was released gives me the impression that the employee is behaving the way that he's behaving or she is behaving because they do not believe they will be held accountable. The statement let us know that the apple does not fall far from the tree. And so today we have gathered to let it be known that the social justice community supports this family. We support all the families, and that we will not stand by and be silent about something. In fact, just like we have time, today is actually the birthday of Jalen Walker, who was shot at 90 times in Akron, Ohio by police. We went there last week. We stood with that family last week, and we are standing with this family today because racism anywhere in this country deserves to be addressed. And we ask that all of you, not just black families, but even those who are our allies, to know we are being disrespected at a park. If you stand with us, you should stand with us on calling on Sesame Place to do better, to fire the employee, to have more training, and also calling on SeaWorld to speak up about what has happened here. Do not think that we don't know who owns Sesame Place. SeaWorld, we know this is your high time in terms of tourism. And we will make sure that every person around this world knows that we are not being treated fairly. And that, for us, is our statement. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Well, we will take a few questions. We will say that there has been a couple change.org petitions that have been out that has been out recently. So we're going to urge the public, the community, to support those change.org petitions.
One we dropped today.
Okay.
So, and it's under our name. Yeah. No, I mean, you can just tell them.
Yeah, the official one has been dropped today under Until Freedom. With Tamika Mallory. It's the change.org petition that we have called to address this issue.
Could you just tell us what your thoughts are at this stage? If you can step up to the podium. You can step to the podium, Matt.
As you all may have seen the interviews that I have done yesterday, I just feel like the apologies were not genuine.
That's right.
And I believe that the apologies are not being put out, being that it has caused so much uproar. And I just want them to be able to do the right thing, being that me, my niece, and my daughter have all suffered one, embarrassment,
yes.
Discriminatory behavior, which we should not have to endure in these days and times.
What would you like them to do to make it right for you, ma'am? What's right for them?
Yeah, there's several things that we've already said publicly that we would like Sesame Place to do specifically. Number one is a very simple one, a formal apology. And what we mean is not just, somebody just giving a watered down something to pacify us. We want a genuine and authentic apology.
That's right.
Okay? We want the acceptance of responsibility here. We don't want some explanation that, the performer didn't see these two young girls, which one of them is in isolation today from the harm that has been caused by this company. The second thing that we're requesting is for the immediate termination of that performer. The third thing that we're going to request is we're going to demand that they take care of any type of health care or mental care expenses that these children have realized. Mental illness is real.
That's right.
We deal with these issues all across the country. It only takes one episode sometimes to have a dire consequence. So we want to recognize that and make sure that they're taken care of in that regard. The next thing is that, again, as we go back to the first apology, I will tell you right now that we have information that we possess. We're going to give this company, they got less than 12 hours to come out with information with a very genuine and authentic apology, or we're going to put out evidence showing exactly what took place in addition to the video that you've already seen.
Evidence about this incident?
Yes. I can tell you that we've been missing each other over the last couple of days as far as communications with Sesame Place. I will be reaching out again to them today. They have contacted my office this morning, so we will be reaching out to see if we can start a dialogue.
Ms. Brown, how is this affecting your daughter? That happened more than the character walking away from the kids?
No, what we mean by that is that it's going to be confirmation of exactly, from a different perspective, of what took place after the video stops.
Ms. Brown, can we ask you, how did this affect your daughter?
One question at a time, please.
Can you help us with what happens after the video?
Well, the family has already confirmed that you see what happened before. There were two Caucasian families, and there was a lady that the character slapped the hands of afterwards. Immediately thereafter, this family has came forth without the confirmation at that time, and they told you that that performer immediately embraced another child immediately after rejecting the two girls. Now, we now have evidence of that, and we also can prove that the first statement that this company released was completely bogus. And we're going to give them a certain amount of hours to go forth and go ahead and tell us what really happened and accept real responsibility for what took place.
Ms. Brown, how is this, can you come to the microphone, how is this affecting your daughter?
For little children, they should not have to experience such hurt and embarrassment from a character who's supposed to bring joy. So now, in the future, who knows if they would want to be acceptable to being acknowledged by a character, or who knows what trigger points this might have for them for the future.
Is she suffering any consequences now?
Yes.
Could you tell us how it made you feel as a mom to see that in that moment? What was going through your mind next to that?
I was sad, I was pissed, and immediately just go into defense mode, because your first thing as a parent is you want to defend your child and you want to protect their innocence.
So you said you had about 10 or 11 other families reaching out to you, separate incidents.
Yeah.
You had to get a time for your family.
Yes, I did.
Had time. No. Understanding that it's a real large group of other families kind of joining your efforts.
Yes, we have been contacted. I did tell you yesterday that number was probably about 10, 11 families. I'll tell you today my office has probably received upwards of 25 to 30 different contacts by families with footage spanning years with various characters. Similar complaints expanding months and years beyond what took place Saturday.
Do you expect that you build a class, file a civil rights claim against them based on everybody who's come before you and you prior here?
We said before that we're currently investigating. Obviously, we got to, do our diligence. But as we said at the onset, that all options are on the table. Now, the last thing that we want to do is file a lawsuit. We don't want to have these young girls have to go through a process that could take months or years to try to resolve. That's the last thing we want to do. This is not about money, okay? But they do need to take responsibility and make sure that these girls get the adequate care that they deserve.
What is the response to your Sesame Place saying about the kids are too short and too low?
I think that is completely bogus to say that they're too, blame it on the costumes. Again, that's what I said before. That is the posture that this company has taken, is to deny and to delay responsibility in this case. So again, if you look at the costume, how come they can see everybody else? They can see everybody before these young girls, and they can see everybody after and interact with them. More importantly, if you really take a close look at the video, the actor completely looks at the young girls. She's walking in a straight line, and she moves her body sideways as to dismiss them. Okay, that's very evident. So again, to now blame it on the costumes, if you want to blame it on the costumes that lead to severe emotional distress these kids are now realizing, then that would be a negligent act on another negligent claim that we would make, because that is foreseeable. You have kids in a park. The purpose of going to a parade is for these kids to interact with these characters. That's what the song on Sesame Street says. That's what they did. That's what they expected, and that's what they deserve.
What about that idea of there being a woman trying to hold up her child?
That claim will be completely disputed tomorrow.
Disputed? or completely, you think that's completely false?
It's false. We believe it's false.
Why tomorrow?
It's not. It's going to be. We're going to give the company a third opportunity to get this right.
I just want to say that on the costume piece, I think first of all, Sesame Place certainly. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my big mouth. I think on the costume piece, first of all, if that is the case, that the costume has some blind spot, then the costumes need to be changed and the customers don't need to know anything about it. That is an internal policy issue that they need to address within Sesame Place. But it should not have been in a press release to address what we all saw.
That's right.
I believe that Sesame Place, first of all, needs to do some internal firing and hiring of their own team. Because whoever did the PR statement, it's very clear that they need racial bias training as well.
That's right.
That individual wrote a statement in a way that has caused more harm in in the climate within this nation where we are dealing with extreme issues around race relations. So that tells me that the sensitivity within the company needs to be addressed from the top to the bottom. And unfortunately, I know, people don't like to hear us say it, but the reality is that while there may be this positive history around how Sesame Place started, infiltrators are everywhere in this nation, people who carry discriminatory behavior and beliefs. And that means that the company needs to be telling the public, not just this family. This family, one, they have been harmed. But there are people who are now across the nation afraid to bring their children to a place, your children, your babies. We want to protect our babies. So this company should be telling the nation about all the things that it's doing to correct behavior that would even put them in a situation where people feel discrimination took place.
We will say that the Sesame Place has reached out to the family to ask them to come back. But again, that pales in comparison to the harms that have been realized. This mother here, she tried to resolve this issue immediately. Okay? This wasn't about any publicity. This wasn't about any money. This wasn't about anything. She went to management immediately at the park. She showed them the same video that millions of people across this country and the world have seen. The Sesame Place had an opportunity to see that video at that time. They chose to reject it. They chose to dismiss this family. So now, wanting to invite the family back now, no.
Right.
We won't accept that.
Right.
You're going to do more, and you're going to do more, not only for these families, but for families across this country.
What exactly did they say when she showed them the video?
That there wasn't no supervisor available in that park at the time.
What are you telling your daughter, that transpired? How do you explain this to her?
That love always hate, and not everyone is a bad person. So you may have encountered a bad person that day, but I'm going to make sure that they know that there's millions of the people who's here to support them and love them.
That's right.
So Sesame Place issued another statement saying, we know this is not okay, we're taking actions to do better, we're talking about training for employees. Is that, what do you guys say to that?
That type of statement, even though I don't think that is sufficient, I think that type of tone should have been addressed immediately.
Right.
That tone should have been addressed when my client here, Ms. Brown, went before Sesame Place at the onset. That should have been their temperature then. It shouldn't have to go viral for them now to come and say, oh, we're going to address these issues after you completely rejected that there was any intentional act at all. Why do you need bias training if the acts were not intentional? If it was an oversight because of a costume, why do you need bias training? How does bias training help you if you can't see out of a costume?
Right.
Explain that to me.
Bias training is used to prevent more unintentional incidents from happening?
Bias training is meant to prevent intentional acts. It's a certain mindset that you have. It's a certain that might be deeply rooted. But again, I don't think bias training, carries out racism. I think that is something that is imbued in a person. They need to get fired. The only reasonable action that this Sesame Place can take at this point is to terminate that performer.
Why is the other child in isolation? You said as a result, there's other child in isolation.
I mean, obviously, these are emotional harms that are real. While others might not accept the reality of what takes place, especially with a young mind and young children, So as a protective measure to mitigate any further harm, this family has chosen the option to keep her in isolation at this point.
Can you name another theme park that you now have gotten information on that might be behaving in the same way?
We are currently only investigating Sesame Place at this time. Again, I think that this is a lesson that all theme parks, as Tamika Mallory just talked about, that they should, pay attention to this and also review their policies, procedures, their training, and take the corrective action that's necessary.
Do you believe what happened here was a racist act against those two children of color and their mom?
I think that is the only logical deduction that you can make when you see what happened before and what happened after. And because America has not seen what happened after, we'll show you tomorrow.
Sesame Workshop over here, they sort of like distance themselves in some ways from that news release that they put out, right? You had conversations with Sesame Workshop, would you plan on going in there and talking to them, or is that a stand?
We are open to dialogue. We said that from the beginning. I mean, we want to live in an America whereas everyone feels protected, regardless of color. I mean, we should be well beyond this. I mean, if the year 2020 wasn't significant enough to be able to raise and put attention on these issues, now we got to do something. We have to heal as a country, and it can't come at the cost of harms to our children.
What legal steps are you taking right now?
Right now, again, we are investigating at this point. We are not gung-ho about filing a lawsuit, okay? We do not want to have these kids dragged through a litigation process, all right? We just want healing. We want this theme park just to do the right thing. That's it. It's that simple. We are here for principle, not money. We're here to make change and effectuate change in this country, and it's long overdue.
Mom, could you say your name and spell your name to us accurately, if you
Yeah.
so we all get that now?
Yes.
My name is Jody, and it's spelled Jodi.
Your last name?
Brown, Brown, like the color.
And what's your
child
daughter's
is?
name?
My daughter's name is Skylar, Skylar, and this is my niece Nyla. That's Nylah.
Silent Brown?
This is your niece.
Skylar parent. This is my niece.
Your niece, not
This is my niece.
Oh, that's your niece. What's, I'm sorry, her name is?
Nyla,
Spell that.
Nylah.
Do you reside in Pennsylvania, or are you from
I reside in New York.
And what's Nyla's last name?
Brown.
Brown. That's your niece.
That's my niece.
And that's the one that's here today.
Yes.
Yeah, but just to be clear, like, the lawsuit is not an option right now, right? I mean, you want children's health, mental health to be cared for. That costs money. So if Sesame Place came to you and said, we can give you this much money to make sure that they get the proper care they need, is that sufficient?
I will make one guarantee. It's not about money. I mean, no matter how much money Sesame Place would offer, that's not going to change a culture. We're going to call on several different organizations that work on social justice issues to assist us in creating very specific action items that we're going to demand upon Sesame Place with any type of agreement that we would enter into. We're looking for real change. We don't want to do this again. No other children should have to go through what these two girls have went through and experienced.
Explain to me, I thought you said, and I may have misunderstood this, that the niece is in isolation, but this is the niece here.
This is the niece. This is Jody Brown's niece right here. Her daughter is currently in isolation.
Have you ever been to Sesame Place before?
That was my first time. That was my first time. The children have been there previously.
Prior event was
With the school.
okay with what you knew?
With the school.
Your school?
Okay, we'll take a couple more questions and then we're going to terminate.
So we know which girl is which in the video. Which backpack was
The blue backpack.
Okay.
Nyla is the blue backpack?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Brown, is she a New Yorker?
Yes.
What?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Brown?
Let's
Thank you all for coming.
go back
Appreciate
here.
it.